Okay, let's see here. Now that was an interesting bug I just saw there, right? So let's try to figure out how to solve that one first, since it's literally the first thing I saw. All right, so I picked up the shield coming from the left, right? And facing the top left, pick up the shield. Now I'm still facing top left, but when I first use the shield, when I hit block B, it's animating it as if the character is facing the bottom right. So that obviously needs to be fixed, right? But I know that I can do it very easily because I remember writing functionality to actually handle setting the animation direction properly when the user moves in a certain direction. So, as an example of this, it's currently based off the bottom left and the left, or sorry, the bottom right and the right context, right? Which is why it looks weird. But as soon as I hit left, it correctly updates. If I go back to the previous direction, it also correctly updates. And at this point, everything's kind of synchronized. So that switch is a context setting for the sprite group. The context is the concept of which direction sprite happens to be facing in, because we're gonna have all these different actions that we want to be able to handle, but we have to, like, for every action that we want to handle, do it like for every one of the different directions. And the sprite set that I'm working with smartly chose to provide only 4 contexts facing actually it's technically 8. You have 4, you know, diagonal directions. I was like, vertical? No, that's not the right word. You have 4 diagonal directions, right? Top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. But then you also have the sprites where they're facing backwards in the same direction. So you have these different contexts that you have to work with. And what I decided was that for like the bottom right context, the way that he's facing now, this is going to be rightward movement as well as bottom right movement. And then for down, for instance, we can do both left and right facing so that it kind of makes sense, you know, like if you're moving right and then you all of a sudden go down, you're still facing the same direction that you were previously. And this is mostly just like a visual thing, right? So like same thing if you're moving up. You're moving up, character's facing away from you, but the direction, like the diagonal direction that they're facing, is dependent upon what your previous direction was. I actually have a lot of code that does this conversion. If I wheeze every now and then, don't worry. I'm just experiencing full body joint decompression right now, and all my shit's cracking out. which I really have to do in order to like really start flying with the code stuff, because when shit like shifts position, like it would be nice if everything stayed in the same position, which is why I spent so much time trying to lock things in here, because shit's been popping bad, and I literally cannot work if shit's not like properly stretched out. Like I know no employer's gonna want to have to deal with that shit. What do you mean you have pre-existing conditions? We don't insure that shit. I mean, thank God for Obamacare, because that's why I voted for the motherfucker. Because I knew that coming out of college, I was going to be losing my military health insurance that I was born into. And I got a lot of shit going on, you know what I'm saying? Like if I got stuff that I need done directly connected to previous shit that I've had or had happen, that's pre-existing condition. And insurance really is more like insuring for possible things that could happen. But if you like go into some shit needing some shit, I mean, that's the whole reason I think most people get insurance, is that like in the best case you're born fully healthy and you insure yourself in case something bad happens later, right? But a lot of people got health shit before they get insurance, you know what I'm saying? Like, it fucking sucks. And that's one of the reasons that like no insurance company is going to pay for like medical marijuana, or like that's one of many reasons why they would never do that. But I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just free balling right now. So so there is a bug here, right? So when we pick up the shield for the first time, you know what? Actually, I like the 200, honestly. I like my long lines. Uh, Update sprite group. So this is what actually decides which direction the sprite faces in. So if I press some direction that happens to be a different direction than you were previously facing, then it's obviously need to update the context. So this function gets called, and it checks what the previous context was, see which direction you were facing, and based off that, we have this nice long if statement compressed into a amazing ternary statement that I wrote, if I don't say so myself. But this would be really fucking ugly as like a giant if statement, right? Because ultimately we're just working with integers and we're just choosing another integer based off some pre-existing integers, right? Like depending on which direction you happen to be facing, and what the previous context was, then we set things right away. So like for instance, in these first four, like I said earlier, the sprites that are given to us are up left, up right, down left, and down right. So we can just set those straight away. Those have a one-to-one correspondence with a given sprite group context. So the different contexts we have correspond to those directions. And if we press a direction that's in those directions, we can just hard set that context, because we have two different sprite sheets for facing forward and facing backward. So this is kind of like a separate value from that. So like a different mechanism handles whether or not you're facing forward or backward. But down left, down right, up left, up right, those are straightforward. But then if you press down, the context that gets set depends on what the previous context was. So if you press down and you were facing previously right down, then we're going to set that to right down, which makes sense, right? Because you press right down. So we can actually like one-to-one this right now. So if you press down right, he's facing down right. But then if you press down, he's still facing down right. And that's entirely because of these if statements right here. This function literally does that, right? So if we hit down and he was previously facing down right, he's still facing down right. But if I press down left and then I press down, he's facing down left instead. And if he were facing up right or up left and then you press down left, he gets set to down left. And that's because of these first if statements right here. Like if you press one of those directions, it doesn't matter what context you were facing in previously. It'll just hard set it. But for instance, if we press down and you were previously facing any one of these directions, or no, if you were in the context of any one of these, then, for instance, left down, right? So like, so this is left down. So if we pressed up and we were in, so wait, yeah, if we were in left up and then we press down, we're still in left down, you know? And actually this could probably be heavily reduced because the only two that we really well, actually don't know that we can actually reduce, but this works. That's the important part. But we handle every case, and that's why it looks so smooth. But using this knowledge, I have to go in and fix this bug now. So let's talk about the shield, because the shield is implemented in kind of an interesting way, and I'm not sure that this is best. So the shield sitting on the tile is an entity, and the entity has a particular context, a different kind of context here. This context is the context of, actually I ended up calling them specifiers. The specifier for this particular entity as it's rendered on the tile, and that's an important keyword, on the tile versus on the player, right? So like here it is on the tile, and we grab it, and there it is on the player, right? So the context for the shield is getting updated somewhere, but we want it to immediately update the first time that you pick it up. I didn't realize I was going to still get notifications for that while I'm doing shit. So if another notification pops up, hopefully it's not anything too bad. So yeah, what I was getting at there was shield. Handle player input movement key. So we grab the hero, grab the hero direction. We actually set the hero direction because at this point we've passed a direction to this function that we can just immediately attach to that, and then we create an action moving in a particular XY that we derive from that direction. We call something to update the hero's sprite group. We grab the ID of a shield. At this point, it's possible that this returns -1. So if shield ID not equal -1, we do this. Okay. So here we attempt to update the shield sprite group. We want to do this not just in the movement section. We want to also do it immediately after we pick the shield up. So I'm going to mark this area because I might have to jump back here. So you could like jump to some other part of the program and then do apostrophe and then the key that you specified for your mark, and you can jump immediately back to that point in the program, which is pretty cool. So let's see, key W picks things up. Handle player input pickup key. So it creates an action. So if this returns 2, we create a pickup action. Then we have process turn action. So process turn action really is more about like setting values, right? No. So we actually process action here. So this is where like the pickup would occur. It would be useful to know what you've picked up, right? Entity pickup. So this returns that the pickup's successful. But we really need to know what we've picked up. Or we should really be updating the sprite groups like every turn, or whenever they're updated, right? So sprite group needs to be updated when items pick up. We need a generic way to know what we've picked up, because we only want to actually do the update if the item is immediately equipped. The equip occurs when the item's picked up. And somewhere, because the fun part about this is actually that the update fails in many instances when the game's initially running, because we have no shield equipped, right? So you can see this here. Shield ID is -1. They're talking about the shield ID of the hero, right? Rather, I'm talking about, because this is my code, isn't it? So that's increment frame. So here we have to have a direction, right? Because we do this kind of thing. Update player, so update player shield sprite group. mean, naturally it works there, but right, naturally. So what I did here though is I genericized something, and actually we don't want to necessarily pass dir in. We want to be able to pull dir off the hero. Okay. So that's kind of nice to be able to do that with no real additional input. So knowing this, I'm gonna do a little bit of a hack here. Ultimately, we're going to want to call this update hero shield sprite group along with a bunch of other update sprite group methods every so often, or like once every so place in some place. But for right now, um, because this is the only thing we have to pick up, because we have not genericized it, um, we have not separated out like because ultimately I think picking up and equipping should be separate actions. I don't know if I believe in this auto equip. Because that would push me to like give a reason to start like displaying a like an inventory. That wait, no. Okay, that's fixed. That fixes that. I don't know that genericized is a word. I'm making it a word. So, big question we have. Should they be two separate actions? I want to make some text pop up. Like, I want to get some mock damage text in there or something. I want to explore on-screen stats and placement. Whoa. So this is their idea of an example of what the end result of using their assets might look like. It is by no means a requirement. The way that we could end up arranging things might be totally different. Menu. Animals. Label. Yeah. No, I think we're going to be rolling our own GUI. Start with doing what I did with Skull, and or rather with the previous implementation of the RPG, and get some like pop-up text that can like fade away. Let's see how we can go about managing that stuff. Because like, if you get hit, you want some number of damage to perhaps pop up above your head. And we would want that to get wired with the in-game Lua callback, letting us know how much damage was inflicted. So Here's the code for entity attack. But at the moment, it returns only true or false. It originally was damaged. I was using in the context of that one detail that like indicate like the animation. But remember that because I've eliminated that so that we could just focus on individual animations per time step rather than having to like stack animations together. It greatly eliminates the burden of me having to figure out what to do next. I was questioning whether or not I needed to get rid of what's damaged. However, I don't think I need to. What I think it could be useful for in showing how much damage was inflicted is perhaps actually storing well, so we actually could use two values. So now we have an additional thing letting us know how much damage was actually inflicted when an entity is damaged. So actually, I don't think that necessarily the block, well, I guess you could technically, well, curious, how many things should you be able to block? I guess if you have a buckler, you should obviously be able to only block like one thing, but if you had like a tower shield, I mean, I wonder how many blocks can be processed in a turn if, like, for instance, you were surrounded and attacked by a lot of different enemies. Good question. So, for instance, if we wanted to pass just like a raw number here without doing any calculations right now, now this isn't going to quite work if you have like multiple enemies attacking you. We need a way to pass this information up, kind of like the call chain. I guess before I start hacking and solutions. Let's focus on actually showing some text. So remember that the processing of the game world is done in Lua, which transfers information back up into C, which does the graphics. So process turn alt. I don't think we need anymore. Process turn actions calls this, which calls in turn process turn action. Process turn action. So the action in the list in Lua has certain values. It has the ID of the entity performing the action. The action has an entity ID, has an XY. Then we process the action. So something that could be useful here is what is result ID? We even use results ID after that. Process action. Oh, it returns the action ID itself. So we could actually return something more useful here, right? So you could construct like a more complex object that contains more specific information about what happens as a result of an action. So if it's anything other than -1, though, it indicates like positive that the action succeeded. But the actual calls to the actions themselves only return true false. So for instance, action result could contain like the action type, the action entity ID, the action XY, whether or not it was successful, how much damage for, who the target was, or who was damaged rather. Yeah. So returning that, and then needing to get specific values off the Lua stack when we return that result. One thing that we could do is temporarily store all of the action results in a list, and that way we can reference the action results one at a time. Like we could actually just step through, process everything right away, and then step through the results list, access all of the elements that we need to do. It's going to take a little bit of re-engineering. May not do it right now, but thinking through this is important. You step through that list, then, for instance, when an attack occurs, or some other thing like bumping into a wall or blocking successfully, we'll be able to reference whatever those things are in that list directly without having to like do any sort of complex figuring of things out because we've already done it. So as an example of this, instead of returning all of these things, might want to return something a little bit more informative. So if you attempt to attack and someone blocks, does that count as a successful attack or no? Like, versus attempting to attack and losing grip of your sword and it flying out of your hands. They're two different types of failed attacks, right? So Let's start with this. Um, so instead of returning false here, we could actually return That's pretty good. Copilot's really on it right now. So we're going to have to fix all this code now that we're going to be using this, right? Invalid. Huh. So I'm aware that both those blocks look identical at the moment, but as you can see, these variables underneath, I'm probably going to end up migrating. Because ultimately I don't want every block to be successful. Plus also over time there's going to be degradation of item material. Same thing here. Okay, so we have pickup and block to handle as well. Then we have to handle that code to process the new results correctly. Then we have to update the C layer to correctly grab the results from processing an action. It's kind of an overhaul. Entity pickup. Oh, I'll be right back. The color schema got broken hella bad here. Oh, ID. Yeah, see, like right here, color scheme is wrong. It doesn't break anything, but it does look weird. Um, block, no entity. I mean, technically, this could be true. Unknown entity. Oh, Okay, so result would never be false anymore. And we wouldn't just return -1 or whatever. Um, process action. We want to take the result and add it to turn results. Or action results. Because actions gets cleared every turn, right? So similarly, we could also clear action results every turn, and that way you don't have to do everything so one by one. We can just like stack things together. So oh, the baby needs something. Let's do a little OUT breaky. All right, we'll probably be getting off here pretty soon, but I want to finish up what I can here. So I believe the way that things currently stand, that's a terrible if statement. Holy shit. I'm going to use it though. Um, oh, nice. I don't think that broke anything necessarily. What do you think? Great. Let's see. All right, all the logic still works. And I turned off equipping, so that's why that's doing that. So I should probably checkpoint here because part of the next phase is going to be going back up into the C code, um, and actually doing some interchange between the Lua and the C, because after we process an action, because at the moment we're just returning the success, but what we should really be returning are values from the process. Sorry, from the action results table, because we are stepping towards being able to like display attack damage, and one of the values that we want to pass into the process results is damage that was dealt if an attack is successful. Yeah. And we'll be able to pass a bunch of other things through that system too in order to figure out what state that we need to set like entities in. So we'll be able to just like step through the list of results, see what changes have occurred, and then animate them as appropriate. That way I don't have to think too hard. I hate thinking. I like solving problems. I hate thinking though. Funny how that works. Solving problems should be a system that you can follow, that you don't have to think about. Oh yeah, let's check things in. It's still too early for Din Din, Grace. My dog is asking for Din Din early. She's asking for me to hang out. One of the two. So she's my queen, so I listen to my lady. All right, y'all. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. like, subscribe, all that good shit. Want to really support me? Watch all of my videos over and over again. Even running on in the background if you want. I don't give a fuck. Just give me those numbers.